Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to Adadharana Viz 24. My name is Ashinsani Veerasinghe. So through this program, we always talk about something different and we keep talking about topics that are not really spoken much. But today, we're definitely going to talk about a topic that is timely, which is gender equality. When talking about gender equality, and this program is especially about women in leadership program, which is offered by British Council. To talk about this, we have two guests today with us. To introduce them, first of all, let me introduce Kalpani Gunawardana to all of you. She is a model and an upcoming actress, and also she is a small business owner, consultant, and an advocate. Hello Kalpani, welcome to today's program.
Thank you so much for having us.
And next I would introduce you to Safra Anwar. She is the Manager Marketing and Communications at British Council, Sri Lanka. A very big hello to you as well.
Thank you.
So to get started with, we know gender equality. Different people come into the set and give different definitions for gender inequality. What is your definition? Kalpani, if I start with you.
So I would say, in terms of our group as well and the work that we've done, that when we look at gender equality, it's usually in a binary sense, where you look at male and female inequality. Whilst we all know that all three of us are not the same, even if we identify as cis-het females, we have different realities.
Yeah.
And when we try to understand gender, gender in itself, again, is not binary. There's a wide spectrum in terms of how you express yourself, how you represent yourself, your sexual orientation. So we take the look of intersectional feminism, where it even goes beyond the physicality, where we look at the environment. Climate change is a crucial topic in that sense. So rather than speaking of gender equality, we would like to look at gender equity, especially since the project that I am on is about inclusion, visibility and access, and I will elaborate more on that. And to give a small example, if it's okay, on gender equity, it's a classic example that you can find online anywhere. There'll be a wall, and if we give 3 people of different heights the same box, only one person or maybe 2 people might be able to see over the wall, and yet it's still not going to be the same view. Gender equity is understanding that in order to strive towards equality, that we need to take our lived experiences, our different realities into account and give equity, where we balance it out so that we all can work towards that.
Perfect view.
Yes, basically.
Right. So when it comes to Safra, what is your definition of gender equality?
I think Kalpani was so kind enough to give us the best example for it. But I believe that it's also, above all of that, it's also we need to work with all these different spectrums, all these different communities to actually bring in that change, that value, that vision we have for Sri Lanka or in any other country for that matter. Because gender has always been a title where they go like, you know, women don't have this, men don't have this, we should treat each other equally. But it's always been that conversation where we've not gotten anywhere through that conversation. So the idea is that we need to bring in an implementation of it where we actually show the world that, you know what, this gender equity is just not a conversation we're having, it's something we implement, this is something we do in our daily lives, and we need to make sure that it happens rather than just talking about it. So look at it on a broader spectrum, yes, look at ways in which we can reduce that backlog, that people who are getting held back just because of who they are or who they want to be or who they are inside that they are, but they cannot bring it out because they are of fear or whatever reason, and bringing that equality to this space.
I think, like you very well said, gender equality is a conversation that everybody gets involved in and keeps saying, hey, this and that and everything. But what is the actual action that can be taken is the question. Now, coming into that, Women in Leadership is the program that is offered by British Council. Let's talk a bit about this. What is this program?
So when it comes to the Women in Leadership program, is that we understood that there are many strong women and men who are looking at a feminist angle of leadership, as well as they have the core skills of leadership that are within them. But they haven't been given this platform, the skills, the tools they need to actually look at what their vision is and how to bring it into reality. And it's also for them to analyze within themselves who they are, what are their skills, so we have a huge philosophy within the program of asking yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and then through understanding what is your why and why you're doing it, to understand what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So a lot of people start with what they're going to do before they realize why they're actually doing it. So bringing in that sense of thinking within the program is what this is. So we've actually run it with a partnership from an organization called Close Social. They are one of the social leaders in the UK. So they actually designed this program, and it was rolled out regionally. So even countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh and the rest are also a part of it. And then these leaders will actually, while also learning about the program in country, they also can talk to people in the other regions who have also been part of the programs and learn from them. So just on the 17th and 18th, there was a huge conference called the Leadership for Gender Equality Conference, where they took out all these leaders who were coming in from all those different countries, brought in experts, and had very important conversations about, whatever the spectrum of leadership that you want to fall into, and what are the actions they're taking around the world and within these regions to actually showcase it. So I think that is the core aspect of the British Council program.
All right. So along this line, now how did the leaders of this network bring in different ways of thinking to this program lineup? And also, is it British Council alone in this process, or how does it work, Kalpani?
So we have a mentor that has been brought on board. We have Manuti Serra, and Chloe provides the course material, and we've been guided throughout. In terms of how we interacted, like what Safra was saying, we can't work in different silos. And for the longest time, even though, let's say, I work in advocacy for women, for anyone who identifies as a woman, I was stuck in that area. I might have been amplifying, let's say, environmental concerns without actually having that cross dialogue. And we really must thank British Council and the team for bringing on board a very diverse cohort where we could learn from each other. And like what she said about self-reflection is critical and necessary, but doing it alone is difficult. Because, whether you make time for it or whether you're meditating or whatever it is. And this sort of made us stop and do it because it was a time commitment, but also we weren't doing it alone. We had so many people to bounce off ideas from, and there was, the gamut from shared trauma to the shared why, purpose, and we realized that we may be coming from different sectors of advocacy or even activism, but that there's so much that we can learn from and that we can work together. So yeah, that was fantastic, I think. Yeah.
All right, on that note, we would like to take a short break. Welcome back after the break. So before the break, we were involved in an engaged discussion about gender equality and women in leadership program offered by British Council. So getting into the subject again, Safra, I would like to ask, let's talk about this program in detail. How can one enroll, and what is the exact process? And let's talk a bit about the module as well.
So basically right now what's happened is people actually applied. It was a very open call out application. Some who actually already applied nominated others, and then they applied themselves, and then they were shortlisted to 25 amazing people. So this 25 is extremely diverse group of people. We have everyone who's from people with disabilities, people who are working in gender work, people who are lawyers, people who have actually just done grassroots projects. We've had people who basically do training for youth. So the group is so diverse to ensure that there is an experience that people will learn not only from the actual program of the course, but also from the learnings that you get from within the group. So for example, I can say clearly, even Kalpani will agree that, for example, whatever project you can think of in terms of even from climate change to gender to like bringing in legal reform to any of that, there will be a representative from the team that you can actually go to them and be like, I need help. Can you help me? And they could bring in your resources that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And I think that is one of the core, like, that without even realizing that was such a core aspect of the program. And apart from that, what happens is, so when we actually, so we have like a few hours depending on the day for a week, where we actually go into a self-learning course, which is completely online, so you can do it at your convenience, where they actually start, so it went in a phase order.
Yeah.
So first we started talking about like what is leadership, what is feminist leadership, what is gender leadership, how do we actually define all of these concepts that we have. Then from there it goes into like, when you want to do change, you want to bring in reform and all of that, like how do you actually go about figuring out what you want to do. Like, and that's the whole part of like asking what is the why, and then the how and the what, and then go through all of that. Then how do you bring in communities into this, and then that whole modules go through these phases for you to self-reflect on your own leadership and how your skills are, and also what is required at this point in time in societies, and then actually implementing those actual changes that you want. And the best part about it is that every Wednesday, every evening, we would come together as a group, all these leaders that we've chosen, and we would actually like talk about, okay, while we did this exercise, what did we learn?
Nice.
Like how is it from our experiences that we can take into these aspects of the modules, and how we started learning from each other, because each person has their own individual experience. There may be struggles that may have. For example, a lot of people came in and said, sometimes we want to do absolutely everything, but we can't say no, and then we agree to everything, and then we realize, oh no, we can't really do it. Then there were people who said like, because they have like, say, invisible disabilities or physical disabilities, or they don't have the mental health to control all of it, like how do they manage those, how do they cope, what are their strategies. And then even general people, anyone could take any of those lessons of what they had in their lived experiences into their daily lives as well. So bringing out that community where they're like, we are an open space, everything we said here is in the light of us helping each other to become who we want to be. And bringing that community was part of that whole every week when we got together to actually discuss all of this. So that's pretty much how it went on, and then from there we started planning projects, which we will go into a little bit later, about how we can actually look at some of these core issues that we've realized through this program to actually help communities outside that circle of the 25.
Yeah, I think let's talk in detail about the gaps that are identified in the gender equality leadership and the other projects soon after this break. Welcome back after the break. So now I would like to direct the question to Kalpani. Let's talk about the gaps that you all have already identified or to be identified in the gender equality leadership in Sri Lanka.
So the project that we are focusing on is on inclusion, visibility, and accessibility. For example, I have an invisible illness. I would qualify as disabled in the UK, but we don't have laws here to cover that. But I look very able-bodied, and nobody would think that, I would be categorized like that. So in that sense, when we speak of inclusion, I think media especially has an idea of what disabled is supposed to look like. and how that's been portrayed, which is a channel of charity, sympathy, etc. Whilst true inclusion is not just bringing, you know, 3 people to the table. It's making sure that each one of us is able to contribute, communicate, and we are respected, we are given the same dignity, and that it's a productive conversation, that it's not tokenism of having a representative. And in terms of visibility, again, seeing is believing. We know how media impacts our minds and what we, you know, aspire to do, etc. And we have champions, I call them heroes, in our group, where, you know, they have lived experiences of, you know, walking into panels and immediately everyone's attitude changing because they realized that, you know, XYZ, for example, might be somebody with a disability, visual disability or physical disability. And it's not expected that they will be well versed or be able to have an equal stake in the conversation. And in terms of access, again, language we understand. So now if I didn't speak in English and I was here, I still wouldn't be able to contribute.
Yeah.
But we don't look at access in a holistic manner. It's not about putting a ramp and making sure that somebody in a wheelchair can come on board. Access has to be more holistic in the sense of auditory. Does this set work? Is it going to be triggering? It's asking those questions if you want true inclusivity and true accessibility. And we are also running, our programs are digital. The pandemic is also one reason for that.
Yeah.
And when we speak of digital spaces, obviously safety, things like that, these are intersecting sort of realities. But how accessible is digital media? What are the safeguards? What, in terms of, for example, if it's triggering, is there a trigger warning, right? And so, yeah, in terms of language, in terms of captioning, etc. So, yeah. Thank you.
That sounds very interesting. On that line, I would like to ask Safra, why is British Council involved in such an area? Because we know British Council is involved in so many other areas. Why particularly in women in leadership aspect as well?
So with the British Council, we have always been working on projects to raise not only in terms of women leadership, but also the status of women in the country. For example, we have one of the long-standing projects for violence against women and girls. We use as a methodology built by the British Council to actually help women in communities so that they can actually look at the issues that they have and create solutions based on that. So those have, for example, even the police, the district officials, all of those are involved in those projects. So we've identified that it is a core requirement, not only in Sri Lanka, but also in South Asia, and how we need to raise the profile of this issue. It's also one of the core SDGs where we need to bring in equality in communities. So we really want to be able to be that beacon of saying, you know what, this is a serious issue. We really need to consider the gamut of it, because especially right now with the pandemic, we call it the silent pandemic, where there's so much domestic violence happening in homes, while everything may look like everything looks good on the outside. We have now the first group CEO woman who's come in. We have scientists like Dr. Asha DeVos. We have all these people who have come out of the limelight to showcase that, okay, we can be treated equal, but there's also the other side of it because of poverty and their reach in communities, that we also need to think about those people and their solutions that they need within their communities. And British Council wants to showcase that we want to bring out everyone on every spectrum of society and build that change that we want to see.
Okay. In a nutshell, I would like to ask Kalpani, or Safra, both of you, what is the goal that you all wish to achieve in this particular project, in a nutshell?
So I would say that we want to see equality not only for women or binary or men. It's that we are all equal in all sense. And I think Kalpani gave the perfect example of the boxes, and everyone has to reach that same level. So that's the vision that we want at the end of the day. And looking at building that from wherever we are now in stages. I know it can't happen overnight. It's definitely not something that we can solve. It just, if we could, it would be absolutely amazing. But we need to start, and that's the message that we want everyone to actually question themselves in their daily decisions. Like when you see a woman cross the street, there's a way you need to think about. So just think about it and do and act on it is something that we really want to see.
All right. Along with that, we have now come to the closure of this particular program. Thank you so much, Kalpani, and thank you, Safra, for joining with us in this program to spread the word of its along with gender equality. We are talking about gender equity, just like Kalpani mentioned. We're all looking for the equality and the equity range of topic. So without being just in conversations, let's start and get into action along with this program as well, Women in Leadership of British Council. So thank you so much for joining with this particular episode of Other Than Biz 24. See you soon with another episode.